Cool, man. 3, 2, 1. Andy Ellis, welcome to the podcast, mate. It's great to finally get there via Skype or Zoom or however we got here today.
Thanks for having me along, mate. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Good stuff, man. Throughout this, I guess, just kind of set it up. I want to go into a bit of Crusaders chat, your investment, business, and then All Blacks and a bit of the coaching you've kind of been exposed to. So, I guess where we want to start, we'll jump straight into it. I want to hear the story when you went from a Nissan Bluebird to an XR8 Falcon Ford in sort of 12 months' time. Just that real blast into a rugby career.
Yeah, so mate, I went to Burnside High School, which isn't really a renowned rugby school yet. You wouldn't go there to try and kick on for a professional rugby career most of the time. It's more known for its arts and music and that sort of thing. But our year we had a really great group of guys, and with some really, really awesome coaches too, who put a lot of time into the boys. And I really loved my year there, and it was a real passion for me too. And so after leaving there, I went to uni, and I studied landscape architecture at Lincoln Uni, and that's when I purchased my Nissan Bluebird off my grandparents, who were asparagus farmers. It was used as an asparagus car. So I purchased. They pretty much gave it to me. It was kind. And that's how I used to get out to Lincoln Uni for studies. And I remember it all so well. I knew exactly like how much $10 would get me to the last K, in the old diesel. So it's one of those things that you do when you're a student, I suppose.
I'm very familiar with the Nissan Bluebird. My dad had a white one. Great car.
Oh, great car, mate. And then, so I studied at Lincoln for 2.5 years, and I was in the rugby program out there. And I'd never really considered. I always loved rugby. I was really passionate about it, but I never really considered it probably a career path. I was passionate. Dad used to take me along to Canterbury and Crusaders games, and I loved every bit of it, and I loved competing, and I couldn't sit still at the best times anyway. So rugby is a good kind of fit for me. But yeah, I missed out on the Canterbury under-19 rugby team, and so for me, I kind of thought, well, that's probably it for me, really. If I didn't make the Canterbury under-19s, I may not. Well, that was my initial thought anyway. And then I remember pulling over on the side of the road in my Nissan Bluebird, and just asking myself, well, actually, mate, you got a decision to make here. Either this is going to motivate and drive me to do everything I can to give myself the best chance, or I'm going to throw it in and get on the piss like my other uni mates every Sunday.
So you had that moment. You pulled the car over and sort of had that.
I remember it clearly. I was crying by myself. I was crying. Not 18 years old. And so yeah, and it stands out really clearly to me, because the decision I made was that I was gonna have a massive off season, give myself a really good chance. I don't even know why. I wanted to, I suppose I thought I was in the mix, so wanted to give myself the best chance. And I did that, and then when I was 19, I got to play a game for the under-19 B Canterbury team.
Yeah.
And we played against the New Zealand under-21 team, who were preparing for their World Cup. So we were like a practice game for them. And I played the game, and the New Zealand under-21 coach asked Canterbury, who's your 9? I wouldn't mind him coming to a trial for us next year. And they go, no, we've already got 2 9s in the 18. And this coach, Bryce Woodward, he said, no, I want him to come along as well. Send your other 9s as well, but I want to see him too.
Yeah, good.
And so sure enough, I trained hard through that off season. I didn't know this at the time. I found all this out later, and then got asked to go to this under-21, New Zealand under-21. I said, nah, what? And look, basically, mate, to speed it up, I made the New Zealand under-21 team. The coach Bryce Woodward, he likes my style of play. I played really well in that game against him, and so I suppose all that hard work I put in, kind of came down to a few little key moments in that game that maybe made a difference,
Who were the other 9s in the under-21s, just out of interest?
Tani Alamala, who's the Auckland Blues 9. Matt France, he was the Canterbury Canterbury saying, "Oh, he's a good player. Played New Zealand under-19s."
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so they were the nines. Yeah, and so honestly, from that point, I made the New Zealand under-21s. When I was into the Canterbury Academy, New Zealand under-21s was earlier in the year. Canterbury Academy, and then I made the NPC team on the bench, and that was sort of October.
Yeah.
And then out of that, I got picked up for the Crusaders. It was in January. I was still studying all this time, still on my bluebird. And then at the end of that Crusaders season, I made the All Blacks. So I sort of have a wee giggle to myself sometimes because honestly, literally what happened is I drove the bluebird, to uni every day, and then one day I turn up in an XR8 that's been given to me from the All Blacks, and and I could fill it up. I could fill it up properly too, and all my mates had a good laugh, and I thought it was a pretty hard case. So and I suppose it just showed me too how quickly things can happen. When you feel like you're not in the hunt or you're not in the mix, and if you kind of dig in and you give yourself the best chance, all it can be is a couple of moments in a game or in a training session even that a coach sees or they like and kind of comes back and pays off.
I reckon we had Craig Cummings, the cricketer, come and talk to us. I was in the Otago Academy, and he sort of said the same around that same period. We were all a bunch of scarfies and drinking a lot, and he's like, boys, you can either sort of look back at a massive pile of beer bottles, or you can put in and get fit, get strong, and really be proud of your achievements. I want to talk to you more about your time at Lincoln, and that I actually came up and checked out the Canterbury Academy. I was either going to go Christchurch or down to Dunedin.
Made the wrong choice.
yeah. Some of your good memories of those days in that professional environment, and then kind of getting little tastes of the Canterbury setup, because I know that the academy crosses over. Can you remember back to some of those sort of days and memories?
Yeah, Lincoln was great because it had the rugby program there, scholarship program. So that was the first taste of I suppose like a professional gym instructor and training sessions, and a little bit when I look back too, it was probably maybe a bit of a test too. A couple of the mornings you had to be there at 6 a.m. If you were late, don't bother coming. Little things like that. So it's probably just more a bit of a character test, I reckon. If you'd front up to all of them. And we trained hard and just got a good taste of that professional sort of expectation around things like nutrition and sleep and all that sort of stuff. They ran really good seminars. So there was a nice introduction out at Lincoln in that program to kind of what came when I entered that the Canterbury environment, which at the time was still semi-professional compared to where it got from, compared to where it got to. There weren't many away games that we didn't have a court session in Canterbury.
Brings the boys together, that's for sure. It's the best way to do it. Bryce Woodward obviously saw you playing in that game for Canterbury B, and I've heard a lot of people talk about you like with your work ethic and sort of leading fitness testing. I'm interested to know, like, how important was you winning fitness tests and your own fitness to you, or was it you were just a fit guy?
I think I never really considered myself a great rugby player. I just thought, I don't know, like if I work really hard and do everything I can, then at least if I can be the fittest, like I'm never going to be the fastest, but I'll try. And the fittest was something I could kind of control a little bit more because I just have to dig really deep, when I was really hurting to get better at that. And so I suppose in a lot of ways I became a bit of a pride thing too, worked really hard on my pass, really hard on my kick. I knew that I had to because, that's what it was going to take. I don't know, it's a bit of a funny one. And now when I look back on some of those games, I could play, I didn't really need to doubt myself, but I suppose by being fit and working hard on all those little aspects of my game kind of allowed me to be confident going into games that I could execute my job in the team.
Yeah.
So it sounds a little bit cliche, but that's kind of exactly how it was.
Did you? I'm interested to stay on the fitness, and then we're going to go into some passing stuff, because I reckon, if fitness is your strength, like own it and always have it as a strength. And I think especially for a role like halfback, fitness is such a weapon for you to be able to get around the field consistently and quick. Like when it came time to the beep test or doing yo-yos, like did you have any tactics going in, or was it just hang on?
Hang on. And I used to think when everybody's really hurting, when I'm really hurting, everybody's really hurting. So that's when I can smile and dig deeper. Like because the thing is with testing and that, like, you're not gonna die. Like, you might faint. Like, there's a couple of close faints, but you're probably not gonna die doing it. So I could so you can always push it. You can always go a little bit darker into the hole if you really dig. So that was kind of my mindset when we're halfway through a beat test or a yo-yo or whatever. That righto, let's ramp it up even more now and see who's in. And you're right. Like, with it as a 9-2, it's got to be such a huge part of the game for you. You can't leave the ball sitting at the back of a ruck. This doesn't work. In fact, you're not going to last very long with that. And you also, kind of the fitter you are, the clearer you can kind of see the game too. So a little bit of that comes into it, where when you're really blowing, if you're fit, you can still see opportunity or space when you need to. You don't just have your head down and trudging to the next ruck.
Yeah, love it, mate. Love the detail. It's awesome. And that's kind of where I want to go now, just with your halfback game. So coming into that Canterbury and Crusaders environment, Justin Marshall was there as you were arriving. He cops a lot of shit for his commentary at the moment, but I'm sure he was able to help and pass on some knowledge. So him and a few other guys who really helped you build your game and take you to that pro level with being a halfback.
I was such a big fan of the Crusaders growing up. Like, I loved them. It was huge for me. So I remember early on, my early days, I would literally get. I remember getting into the shower for some reason, and we're all nude. But there's Reuben, Thorne, and Aaron Major, and Mertz, and might have been Richie, and like. So these are I got like posters on my wall with you guys, and here I am naked, and we're all just cruising here together. And so you can imagine for a young fella, it's such a weird kind of concept to get my head around. So that's that's kind of my early memories of it. A lot of those senior guys really made it clear about what the expectation was in that environment early. And Marshy was a good one for it too. I was a little bit scared going there because I'd heard stories about Marshy, but mate, all he really wanted was, don't enter the environment unless you're going to add to it and make us better as a team, and that was it. And so I quickly understood that with him, and then I had a lot of respect for that. Like, if guys are dropping balls and he's giving them a blast, mate, it's only because we were trying to be better. And so some people get offended by that. But the ones that stayed around for a long time took it on the chin and got better, and often didn't drop the ball when he was around. So
I think
for me,
I want to jump on that because I think that's a great message. So he tells you that, add value. Then what is young Andy Ellis, who's a little bit scared and nervous? What do you do? How do you add value?
Well, I'm learning. I'm listening to the way he's talking to people, and if I drop a ball, I'm going away and I'm practicing my catch and pass after training hard, so that it doesn't happen again. And I've done that because the senior guys in the team have made it clear that that's the expectation of the group. We want to be the best. And I think, and Marcy talks about this too, but when you're winning, it breeds a bit of confidence, and you know what it takes to win. So you can demand, you can be hard on the guys around you because, hey mate, we win titles here. This is what it takes. And don't get me wrong, everyone's great mates off the field and having beers and on the field. But there's an expectation around performance and creating a culture that you come in and you succeed. There's no shortcutters in that environment. So mate, those sort of messages and hearing him talk in meetings and stuff like that was great. You got guys we had an awesome senior crew when I first started. Reuben, Thorne, and Ralphie, Aaron Major, Mertz. Oh mate, all of them. Greg Somerville, Flinney, like that.
Yeah, wow.
It was quality everywhere. So you you just, I as a young fellow, the first couple of years, I just sat back and I don't know, I just tried to do my role in the team. And then as other young guys came in and I saw them making errors or just things like midway through training, just, if we've had a break, someone having a drop kick, you just go, mate, it's not what we're here to do. Come back in. And I learned from those guys that we've got standards here, and I could drive them because that's all I knew as well. That's what my experience of professional rugby was, what I'd seen. So that's what I then kind of carried on. And that's, I think, where talk about culture, kind of breeding culture. That's probably how.
Yeah, mate, heaps I could go onto there. I want to try. We'll come back to a little bit about leading teams and being in leadership groups later on. With your passing game, can you remember back to something technically that took you a while to sort out? I know a lot of goal kickers, it might take 6 months to make an adjustment. Was there something that you realised that you needed to fix or get on top of pretty quick?
I'm still trying to sort that out. No, a little bit still like growing and adapting, and there's kind of new things to think about with all that. I was lucky. I had Alan Lindsay, who's at Burnside High School. He came in and did some passing work with me. Warwick Taylor was my head coach, so Curly came in. Did a lot of stuff with Graham Bishop too in the early days, and Aaron Flynn as well. I remember Graham Bishop. He was really good because he said to me, like, everybody develops their own passing style. Like, I'll tell you what I do. I'll put my foot here and here, but you'll ultimately develop yours, and then you'll get very strong at that because you do a lot of reps on it. There's no secret for me here. The more times you pass, the stronger your fingers and your hands get. Little muscles that no one else in the world uses, you will use, and that you'll get stronger and you'll develop your own style. Now you can adapt. You can fix little things up, like making sure you get low and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, it's on you to get your reps in and try and work hard on a core ideas around passing, and then you'll develop your own style. And that actually really helps. So instead of me trying to pass like anyone other people were passing, I passed like I passed.
When you're having a shocker, mate, and you're not putting your passes on the money, why does that generally happen? Do you know?
You're usually standing up. Usually, if I'm a little bit tired, if I'm a little bit, we talk about fitness. If I'm not in as good a shape as I could be, and it gets later in a game or whatever, then I can start standing up a little bit and losing a bit of shape in my pass.
Yeah.
And I see it even now when we go through multiple phases. If we've gone for 2 or 3 minutes non-stop, I've got to really, it's a real focus that when I'm hurting, right, stay down, follow through a bit, and because if I don't think that, I'll often go back to just tired habits.
Yeah, mate, classes. I'm sure there's halfbacks listening that are loving this, mate. Head-to-head battles with your halfback game throughout your career and, playing over 150 games for the Crusaders, you would have gone up against the same guys a lot, especially in New Zealand rugby and derbies. What were some of those real favourite battles or players that you loved having a crack at? And even maybe some stories where you got one up on guys or... and almost, I'm keen to hear your tactics. You hear about Michael Jordan sort of smack talking. Were you that type of guy?
But I prided myself on knowing the referees and often knowing the referee's wife or boyfriend, and often their kids' names and maybe what one of their kids would do. And so it was great. And like it was a little bit like tongue in cheek anyway. So the ref would come in and call the front row and the halfback over, and I'd just say, "G'day, how's Linda and I know Sam and Judy."
Wow.
And the front rowers would look at me and they'd have a wee laugh, and the ref would look at me and he'd have a wee grin, and then I'd wank and I'd say, "Is Judy still playing the flute?" And he'd go, "Yeah, she is. She's at grade 3 now." And then I'd say, "Cool. You want the ball in straight?" And he'd say, "Yep." I said, "All right, cheers. I'll leave you with the big boys." There's that sort of stuff. And so that was having a little bit of fun, but it was also meant out on the field. It gave me a little bit of leeway. Like I could push the boundaries a little bit more, because the ref knew that I respected him, but I'm competing, and so if I challenge something or whatever, I could often get away with it. There's always a good chat at scrum time too. There's always a little bit of something. Well, I had no idea what's going on at scrum time, but when I was playing with Wyatt Crockett, I'd just be saying, "Oh yeah, boys, it's eating time at the Croczilla pit. He's hungry." And then I'd just yell out to the touchy, the tight head over here is elbows going down, and I don't even know what that means. But and the referee wouldn't have believed. The referee wouldn't have listened. But all it took was that tight prop just to look at me and go, "No, I'm not." And then I just knew that I got him off. Just threw him a bit off his process. That's all I was after. In terms of other halfbacks, though, mate. Yeah. George Gregan stands out to me, and I only played him once, and I only played him in my first year. But mate, he would yarn away behind the back of a ruck. He was inspiring. He was quick. He was a fighter. He was a competitor. So as a youngster, I was seeing that. I was mate, this is awesome. Yeah. This guy he is just here to win. So I'd imagine, those battles that him and Marty would have had over the years would have been fantastic. And they're good mates now, so they obviously were great battles.
Yeah, I rate that. Getting to know the Reese family, that's bloody good. Give you some leeway. It's gamesmanship too, eh? It's smart.
Mate, it's having a little bit. It's taking the edge off a bit,
Yeah. I rate it. So championship drives with the Crusaders, staying with these boys. So looking back, you always hear sort of the catchphrases and team cultures and sweeping the changing room, a lot of the stuff the All Blacks sort of use as well. But when you look back now, what was kind of the day-to-day stuff that you think that you guys did better than everyone else when it came to like a championship drive, ticking boxes?
I think we always had a new or creative theme at each start of each year. So Robbie Deans was always very good at that. I know Razor is, Rob Penny has been in, in that environment that they drive that hard, and so that actually just meant that when times got really tough, we could tap into a certain type of language or theme that we knew we could go to, because so what I'm talking about is the team would get together and the coaches say, well, like, what are we about this year, boys? Let's come up with a catchphrase, or what do we stand for? What's it all about? And we'd come up with different ideas and narrow them down and vote on them, and then we'd come away with a little saying like "me, we," one of the first Crusaders ones, that kind of thing, and then that would be used everywhere. There'd be signs up that would relate to other things. It would come to language. You'd be able to. Your defense would be based around it. Like, it's all encompassing. So, and there's often not a lot between the top teams. So when you're in battle, if there's something that's just going to help you get off the ground a little bit quicker, or not want to let your mate down, it's only a 1 or 2%, then it goes a long way. And sometimes you just slap one of your boys on the butt as you walk past him and say "me, we," and he was up and in. So I think that played a huge part in the success of the Crusaders, as a really clear, effective kind of theming model with each year. And we had good foundations there too. Don't get me wrong. Like the guys really believed in a lot of the things. They were humble men. They were selected on personality a lot as well, character, integrity. There was honesty. If you came in hot dogs, you're spat out pretty quick, or you had to change really quickly too. So it was very much an environment where everyone's very equal, everyone's voice was heard. There was a lot of respect, and a lot of people cared.
Yeah. With why do you keep seeing, like, you see a guy get brought into either the Canterbury team or the Crusaders team, come out of the academy, and then just perform game one like they're a piece of the puzzle and contributing? Why do you think that Canterbury and the Crusaders build such class rugby players? Like, nothing to do with culture or anything, that like skills. Why are the skill level so higher than what other teams that we see?
There's a lot of focus put on it. There's a lot of focus on the small things being done well, and a lot of repetitions, a lot of understanding. It's very good coaching. Got to remember too. So coaches understand that that's an important part of it. So, like a catch pass, if you can if you can catch and pass a pass 0.02 of a second quicker than your opposition, then you're scoring tries. If you can pass off the wrong foot, big thing that Wayne Smith drives. Those top coaches, they're all about like minute, things like that. Your ability to follow through and have a pass in the right place, things like that. See space. So I think that's a big part of it. I mean, but also selection is always good selectors. They, you look at someone like Razor now, or they select top class rugby players. They're not guys who just slot in and can play. They've actually been through a good system, probably the academy system, and they're ready for the next step, and they front on the field too.
Yeah, I rate it because you guys just continue to get it right so often. Cool, man. Change of tack, networking, business, and investments. Pretty excited to hear about Waitaha Wagyu, the beef industry, mate. I want to give the listeners a little bit of a background. Waitaha means Canterbury and Māori. I like that.
Yep.
And I'll give the quick little spiel. So Waitaha Wagyu beef is a producer of high-quality premium Wagyu beef from cattle bred and raised in New Zealand. The farm, located on the outskirts of Christchurch, is run by a team of farming experts with a long background in farming, both in New Zealand and Japan. So tell us the story, mate. Like it seems like a pretty exciting venture.
It is, mate. It actually all started. I've been in Japan playing for the last 6 years, and in my first year there, I had a Japanese butcher. And he was delivering a meat box each week, and I got chatting to him, and he actually went to high school in New Zealand, so he spoke good English. So there's a little bit of connection there already. And he said to me, why in New Zealand do you guys not do Wagyu beef, premium? Like it's the world's premium beef, most expensive and kind of really sought after all over the world. And he said, and New Zealand's a famous farming country. Why have they not done it? I said, I don't really know. And so we carried on talking, and he's a pretty savvy businessman, and he's involved in a lot of other stuff in Japan.
Have you found out that reason? Why? Have you found out the reason why?
No, not really.
Hello? Sorry, carry on.
No. I think, well, maybe it hasn't been done very well in the past. Like what we're doing is we've got that real Japanese expertise. So there's things like a feed mix, exactly what you need to go in for them to eat, and the genetics. You've got to be very specific on getting all of that stuff right. So maybe we just haven't got that stuff right in the past. Whereas now, with some of this, we've got a lot of support from the Japanese Meat Association in Japan too for what we're doing. They're really impressed by it. So that's kind of what we've done. It's cool because all our feed's grown on the farm. So our farmer grows all the corn, barley, wheat. The mix is a secret Japanese mix. So and our cattle go on that. And it's pretty interesting, pretty cool business. I'm really enjoying it.
And there's a bit of a long process with the beef, right? So you don't actually know if you've got it right for a few years. Can you tell us more about that?
That was the thing that probably shocked me the most. So I said, I'm keen to get into it. Let's go. I'm looking forward to trying it at the end of the year. At the end of the year, the first calf was born. And so and then we had to wait another couple of years before we could actually process it to see if we got the system and everything in place. And we had, it was really good. And so then we could kind of develop that breed program further and get everything kind of established. So it's only really now, this was sort of 3 or 4 years ago, it's only now that we've got really good numbers, and towards the end of the year we'll look at the export market. But we're supplying a lot of domestic kind of high-end restaurants, and a lot of the top chefs are really loving the product, which is a bit of a sigh of relief. You're never really too sure with these things, but
that must be so satisfying to have that project all come together and then see it on the plate in restaurants. Well done.
Mate, I love it, and I've sort of become a real foodie with it too. Chefs ring me up and ask me questions. I sometimes don't really know the answers, but I love talking to. No, these are some of the best chefs in New Zealand, and we just kind of talk about it and the process. And a lot of these guys have come down and visited the farm and seen how it's all done, because it's a pretty new kind of thing for New Zealand. And it's really cool business.
How
And
do you know?
we're selling meat boxes too if you want to buy one online.
Yeah, talk us through it. How do we get our hands on a meat box?
It's just the New Zealand market at the moment, but we've got two meat boxes available. waitahawaku.co.nz. You'll
Love it,
find
mate.
it.
Hopefully, get a few orders out of this. Last question, and you know that I love detail. How do you know if you've got the process right? So when the beef gets processed, how do you measure that?
It's done by a marble score. So there's marble scores, which is the fat running through the meat. So that's a big part of the Wagyu beef itself. And it's scored from sort of low 4s, 3s, 4s, right up to 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
And so whatever that score is kind of determines the value of that product. So the higher the marbling score, the more premium the product is. And so, mate, most of ours at the moment, our average is sort of a 6 or 7, which is a really good standard. And
Yeah.
especially in the New Zealand market, it's a really nice marbling, but it's not too strong.
Yeah, awesome, man. My dad was a meat inspector for years, so he'll be frothing over over this chat.
Oh no! Well, mate, we'll have to take him along to the farm.
Love it. The so you're busy, investments, restaurants, rugby, property, probably no doubt as well. I heard you quote that you say yes to everything, and I just go hard when it comes to opportunities and investments. Have you got anything that kind of keeps you organised? Do you use a Trello board or a notebook? Like, how do you keep on top of detail?
I'm a little bit over the top with it. I usually have to get back to people straight away when they contact me, and then that's the best way I stay on top of it. And so while the footy season was on, I'd finish. Rugby was always my main focus, and I'd make sure that I never took any shortcuts out there. That was really important for me because that's what I wanted to. I wanted to achieve high things in footy. But when I got away from that, I'd come away. There'd be emails or messages or things I'd want to follow up, and I'd just make sure I just sat down and got them all done.
Cool.
Quite quickly. I never put anything off, and that was probably quite an important thing for me because I can be a little bit forgetful at times. So if I just get on top of it and I got back to people, or jumped on the phone call, just gave myself an hour or two, in between trainings or after training to get that stuff done, then I could kind of stay on top of it the best way I could, I suppose.
Oh, mate, it totally makes sense. And even like learning a little bit about this game and podcasts is one of the biggest advices I got was never cancel one because you'll never get it back. Like, it's just kind of the way the world works. You sort of got to strike while the iron's hot and be organised, reply to people. It's a good message. And I think rugby players suck at it because we always like, everyone else organises our days and calendars. And so we're probably not that good at it during our careers. But networking, I think you've sort of spoken before about taking opportunities, being in rooms with investors and sponsors and having good conversations. You've found that you've got some good value out of that?
It's something really hard to do as a footy player because often we go there, you might be at the end of a day after a training and you go along to a function as part of that you have to do as part of being a rugby player, promotional thing. So I kind of decided at some point along there that, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but instead of standing in a group with the boys in the corner having a beer, just jump in and go and say g'day to a group of guys and how's it going? And it can be really awkward because everyone's got different personalities. Some guys that's really hard to do, and it was really hard to do for me as well. But you sort of quickly understand that these people are at this function because they love rugby or they're part of the sponsorship for rugby or there's some sort of association there and often they're pretty well connected people in their own right or business owners, and so as soon as you start chatting and start understanding what's out there and how the world works, I reckon that was really insightful for me. And I'd say, at the end of a night I'd ask a bloke for a card, keep in contact and often flick him an email the next morning and just to say, hey mate, if there's anything really interesting chatting last night, if there's anything I can do to to help or vice versa, let's just keep in touch. And if you do that over a series of years, you end up forming this good network, and you bump into these guys again in the strangest places.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, this Wagyu business, comes along, and I met a guy 7 years ago who's the main courier for New Zealand, and all of a sudden there's a grade in to send our meat boxes around. Just little things like that. You don't really think they'll ever be valued, but if you sort of just go and say, make an effort, be a good bugger at the things, I reckon it goes a long way.
Awesome, man.
And it's easy, and it's it's easier said than done. But
it certainly is. I reckon that so many of the boys are a little bit nervous, and I definitely had these feelings like, I don't know what I can contribute to this yarn with this person, and that's why you don't even start the convo. You feel like
exactly, and but the boys aren't being rude, or but yeah, you're right. It's what am I going to add? But you'd be surprised that people pick your brains and be interested in what all it takes is a couple of questions around your team culture and how does that relate to their business, and boom, it can be really helpful for both.
Yeah, wicked, man. Japan life. Keen to hear about how things have been going over there and the rugby. Firstly, Hayden Parker, how's he travelling?
He's a champion. He's one of my favourite human beings. Old Cozzy.
Yeah.
He's just so humble, and he's so down to earth, and he's so hard working. Mate, he's probably one of the hardest working blokes I've ever met.
Yeah.
He's out there kicking goals 2 hours after training. I'll tell you this. We saw, because he's obviously he's at my Southern fan. I saw him on our day off. I drove past training. He was out there with his missus, tackling her onto a big tackling pad. Mate, I swear to you, I'm not kidding, mate. He was. But,
Renee.
He'd obviously seen something in his game he needed to work on. There he was. Putting shots on. So good.
I've tried to get him to do a couple of sessions, and keen to kind of mic him up and hear about his goal kicking process, but he's always brainy. I don't like talking to cameras. He's a very very quiet guy, but you're right, his work ethic is outstanding. Hence why he's the goal kicker that he is.
Mate, he's bloody knows how to sink a few beers at the right time too.
Anyway, I could talk about Hayden all day, but this is your podcast. You got a pretty experienced guy helping you out, and I want to hear some more about him, Wayne Smith, and in his coaching. I've only heard really positive things. What is it about Wayne that kind of has such a big impact on team and how teams play?
I forgot how important a good head coach is. I really did forget. I probably the last 5 years of my career, I'd kind of thought it's the players. The players drive it. The players are out there, the ones playing. They're the ones who have got to execute their role. And then Smithy came along to Kobe 2 years ago. He transformed my way of thinking. It is so crucial to have someone who knows exactly what they want and need, and how to build a team, what culture's about. So he came in straight away, and he found out what our club stood for, what they meant, the history of it. You got to know where you've been to know where you want to go. All this strong language, and we're a steel company, so we built. Our language all changed. Our defense is now called a steel wall. There's all the stuff that goes on, and it creates such a cool kind of feel in the team culture. Now that's he brought in that our club room is awesome. Where we get to enjoy time together and talk about the different places we come from. Families are really involved now at our club, and this was all brought about by Smithy coming in and getting it right. And so that's a cultural side, and then the rugby side is even more so, because he works harder than anyone I've ever met on trends in the game, where it's going next, what you need to be doing. He breaks it right down with those little things, like I was saying earlier, with catching and passing and a tackle technique, stuff that you thought you knew when you were 5. Well, you learnt when you were 5, but you go right back to it, and then you develop that and build on it. And after 3 or 4 weeks of doing it, all of a sudden you're just that much slicker.
Yeah.
And so he was inspirational, mate. I can't really speak highly enough of how he came in and transformed. And the kind of thing is, since he's come along, we haven't lost a game at the club, top league. So he had this incredible way of, and then what happens is the leaders start leading more, and they drive the messages because they're really clear of what needs to be done. Again, they know what's expected at the club. Again, like I talked a little bit about with the Crusaders in my early days, and then the thing starts feeding itself, driving itself, because everyone believes. So.
Yeah.
Mate, Smithy, like I say, I can't speak highly enough of him, and kind of made me rethink the way the whole thing worked.
Yeah, mate, I love it, and it sounds like he's so all over the culture side of things, but then on field is able to put performances out there, coaching wise, detail, and like you said, just getting 1% out of leaders and all players across the field. The style that you guys play in Japan, how are you finding it, like different to Super Rugby and All Black Rugby you've played before?
Yeah, so different. Well, Smithy's kind of brought in this real attacking mindset. He wants us to be like really buy into like playing, attacking, kick when there's space to kick, but only then. And again, like I sort of feel like a club we almost redefine a little bit the way the game's played. It's incredible, mate. Like I haven't done a box kick in 12 months. And if you watch a game of rugby now, that's what an exit is. You take the ball off a kick-off and set a ruck and you box kick it and you have a 50-50. Mate, Smithy's about everyone being alive. Where's the opportunity? Let's go a few phases first, or is there a chance to do a crossfield kick or a grubber or a chip, and it sort of empowers you to have a real crack. We've got athletes that can beat the line and offload, and when you're exiting too often, there's a lot of the wingers and the fullback are back, so you're actually only playing against 12, 13 players sometimes. So there are opportunities to run, but you need your coach to really back you on that, because if you don't and it doesn't work out, then you get yourself in the shit.
I was about to say, it must be really nice to have the coach's back and him backing you playing that style of rugby, because if players went off script of what a coach wanted and the coach's view was different to that, which tends to happen quite a lot, it must be fun.
It does. And you got to remember too, when a whole new philosophy is brought in like that, mate, it doesn't just happen, because we're our team. We've got a lot of guys come from a lot of different environments where no one's done that, and it hasn't. And some of the other things they've done have worked.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot challenging early on, but then once you just back it, you just do it, and then you start to understand it and see it, and then you're away from there. But yeah, it's not easy to implement something like that, but you just got to back it. And when someone like Smithy's coming in and driving it, you trust them, so you do it.
Yeah, mate, love it. Or being an All Black, you played a lot for them. 2 World Cups, which is pretty extraordinary. Where I want to go is you're often on the bench for the All Blacks, and I guess quite often, and I use this as well. Like, it doesn't really matter what team you're playing for. If you get dropped or you're on the bench, it's almost a similar feeling. Obviously, things are heightened when you're playing for the All Blacks. How did you attack that role during your career, being on the bench quite often?
Well, quite often I was actually the third.
Yeah,
and
true.
So I'd have to come in and work my way up to 2, and then I'd have to push hard for 1. So I just always said that, I'll just do everything I can and to try and jump one up, and often I was able to get to jump up the ladder. So that's probably my mindset around it. I don't know. I think when I look back to maybe getting to play in the Rugby World Cup 2011, I think, and winning that for the first time in a long time, that just almost since after that moment, I had a real sense of, I don't know, just nice and relaxed. I really felt like a real feeling of accomplishment or, achievement. And so I was real content, I think is the word I'm looking for, with what I'd achieved. So I won't ever have any regrets in that All Black jersey, or wish I played or started more. Like, it's kind of a funny feeling, but I'm just really happy. I had a great time, and being involved in 211 maybe is a big part of that. And so, and like when something like that happens to all my family and all my friends and everyone you've ever known is just so proud and so happy. And so, I'm a happy man. I didn't play a lot of games for the All Blacks after that, and that was okay. I loved my time with the Crusaders and achieved a lot there, and obviously I've had a great time in Japan too. And I never stopped competing. I'm here to win.
Yeah.
But from that sort of international stuff, I finished off a very content man.
I reckon speaking to a lot of people like yourself, you can be so proud of the effort that you've put in and your preparation and your body, like whatever opportunities come, but you are always ready for them. And it's what you can have a lot of satisfaction in. But I suppose just to stay on this point one more time, and obviously class All Black that you were, but when you had that week of having to prepare under the starting halfback, was that tough? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What were those feelings? Because a lot of people would be in that position now.
Oh, I loved it.
Right.
I loved it. Yeah, and kind of the way that the way the game sort of transformed too. The Nines were getting on quite early.
Yeah.
You're almost getting half a game, so you've sort of got to change your mindset a little bit with the way you think about it, because you almost become a real finisher. Where the game might be tight, you might be behind. You got to come on, and you've got to execute. You got to be quick. You got to be fit. You got to be able to inspire some guys who might be a little bit tired. So there's a real role to play as a finisher, and so I took real pride in that. I came on when we needed to get a job done. Sometimes, and I like to say I was proud of that.
I think the All Blacks led the way with that, eh? Like, and even guys like yourself and Bowden, when he used to come on, like just the injection almost changed the mindset around finishes.
And I think also that All Black management made that really clear too. It wasn't just a thing amongst players. Like, it was driven like, and this is a 22, 23 man squad. This is on. So you really felt like you were contributing in a really positive way.
Yeah. I've got to ask about the guy you passed the ball to a lot, DC, and just playing with him. What did he teach you?
How to do a walrus.
I've heard good things. I've never seen one live from him.
No, he goes good. Mate, he taught me a lot about preparation. He was so well prepared. He would not leave any stone unturned, so that when it came to game, and he learned that through his career, I'm sure, but and probably a lot of the help with a lot of those experienced Crusaders guys early on. He had a great, he just had a great mentality around preparation. He would stretch well, he would swim, he would get all his weights done, do all the extra rehab, and his computer work was outstanding. Like, he knew exactly what he was going in for every week, and you got to be tough to do that week in, week out.
Yeah.
So he taught me a lot about that and how the importance of that. But he's always such a calm, relaxed player on the field. He was quite a hard guy to sort of get too rattled, or he didn't show it anyway. So that really helped me, especially maybe my early days when I was pretty nervous. We fell in and slept all week thinking about the game, and he just give me a wee wink and tell me the next call, or always real clear with his voice, and even if I threw it at his knees, he'd be able to pick it up because he's had that skill set, So that all those things made my job a lot easier, having someone calm and relaxed and someone that didn't blow up at me, with things.
I think that's so important, and you always look back at tens and nines, like real good combos. You always hear that they did have those moments on the field, like little winks or bum taps or tell a joke just to keep each other, boys, like it's all good. Like we'll get the result we're after. That's wicked, mate. And kind of the last thing, I know we've sort of flown around all over the place in this chat, which has been good, but you're doing some research around just retirement and what that's going to be like and feel like. I think you've got a pretty good handle and message around it. So you're obviously still playing at the moment, and there might be future opportunities come up after all this dies down. But where are you sort of at with looking at retirement and hanging up the boots?
Yeah, well, this is a real forced break. So our Japanese season would still be going into May. I had planned to play in the Barbarians against England at Twickenham in mid-June. and that was going to be awesome. DC was going to play, and Rito and
Cool.
Ryan Crotty and some old boys, like would have been fantastic to be over there. And they'd sold out Twickers too, so all that stuff has kind of been put on hold. But so it's forced me just to kind of sit still for a little while.
Yeah.
It's been a good kind of month or so already, and I'm really keen to just give myself another 2 or 3 months just to try and really figure out what I want to get into next. Like we've sort of mentioned, I've got a couple of little businesses, and there's some stuff with rugby and media as well. But I'm just not too sure yet. Or even if I want to carry on and keep playing, I'll figure that out hopefully within the next few months. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned about retirement, and probably the thing I did do a little bit of research. I tried over the last couple of years, because I know it's coming. I've asked a few of the old boys who have retired just what to expect, what's coming, and they've all had very similar stories. And they said no matter how hard you try and prepare for it, it is really hard.
Yeah.
Going away from the professional sporting environment, being a rugby player with great teammates and being challenged and being outside your comfort zone, it's very hard to replicate. But a couple of the things one is just expect it, expect that it's going to be tough, and that actually goes a long way. So you might write down a plan, for 6 to 12 months, it's going to be really hard. I'm going to really struggle. I'm going to have feelings that I haven't felt before, and I'm going to be emotional. I'm going to be upset. I might cry. So if you know those things are coming, if you've written them down, I reckon it goes a real long way to dealing with them. And then everyone says you come out of it, you start to see the world in a different kind of way. Like you might get into some work or different groups of people, school friends, all this sort of stuff. So it comes back around. And the other thing was just staying active, like a routine, a fitness routine. Make sure you keep, because from a chemical sort of point of view, you've got all this oxygen flowing around your body into your brain. You don't want to turn that off straight away. So
yeah, good point.
Keeping that going is a really important thing from a kind of physical point of view. So they're probably the couple of big things I'll take away, and I'll just take my time to figure out what's next.
Yeah, it's such a good message, man. And I think obviously things are heightened when you play in professional rugby, but also think there's a lot of guys out there who have just played club rugby, for big, long careers and 15, 18 years of club rugby that still have those feelings. And just when they do hang out the boots, because you lose it, that team stuff and buying in, coaching, Tuesday, Thursday trainings for a lot of club players. So it's awesome just kind of hear you talk about what to expect. Last sort of question, man. Projects. I'm big on working on projects, and it sounds like you are too. What project are you working on at the moment during this time?
I'm doing a bit of stuff with the Wagyu.
Yeah. What's currently like? What are you sort of? What's the problem you're trying to solve?
Well, we this the meat boxing is a new thing. So we've sort of developed that through the lockdown, and we've had a heap of orders from over New Zealand, so people can kind of have this restaurant quality sort of meat at home. So it's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of that. And I'm not doing a lot of butchery work. I'm not allowed to in there, but the guys are working pretty hard, and we're sending it around New Zealand, which is cool.
Yeah.
And probably the other thing I've been working away at is I've got a satellite internet company for rural New Zealand.
Great.
I'm just a small shareholder in that too. So
Gravity?
At the moment,
is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Gravity. Yeah. Getgravity.nz. And mate, we focus on connecting rural New Zealand. The experience of satellite internet in New Zealand hasn't been great in the past. It's been expensive and it's been slow. But there's new technology now that's allowed us to be really comparable with speeds in the city, and also our plans are really affordable. So it's cool because at the moment, mate, we've got so many kids at home trying to learn, and a lot of them are in rural areas where internet connections aren't very good. So we've been quickly connecting people and helping out as many New Zealanders as we can.
Yeah, mate, exciting
That
times.
sounded like a bit of a sales. That sounded like a sales pitch.
It's fine, mate. It's what these things are about sometimes, especially the last 3 minutes. No, that's awesome, man. Hey, so that kind of wraps us up. Like, thanks very much for chatting and sharing your story a little bit, and for me, more sort of that mindset stuff with these podcasts. Keen for just to share good message around mindset cultures and almost be a bit of a resource. So, really appreciate your time, man. So thanks for coming on.
Cool. Thanks, Pete. Anytime, mate.
Awesome. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, good man. Take care, brother.
Cheers.